Hello, my wonderful friends. Welcome back to the Mermaid Mystic Magic channel. Today we've got a quick tarot chat about the scary cards and how they are actually of service and how to read them in a way that instead of inspiring fear, which shuts down our intuition, we can see them as the helpful guides that they are. So grab a pen and paper or tea or anything you need to take some notes and learn some things, and I'm going to dive right in. So a really common block I see when someone's learning tarot is you're like, oh, it's so fun. We're getting like the High Priestess and we're getting like the Four of Wands. And you're like, ooh, yes. And then the heavy hitters come, the Ten of Swords, Death, the Tower. And what happens when we see those cards, especially at the beginning, is that our intuition can kind of start to shut down. And that's because the images they can inspire fear. The more you work with tarot and the more you see that these are metaphorical, they are symbolic, doesn't literally mean a person with 10 swords stabbed in their back, the more you can move past the scary imagery into the medicine and the messages that the cards have. So think about how every single tarot card has your back. If you think that every card, no matter how sticky it is, has your back, instead of being fearful when the card comes up, you're going to realize it's just guidance. It's all just guidance. The cards, readings are meant to be of service. Readings are actually very beautiful gifts. When they're done with that intention, the idea is that the reading itself helps to align you with your brightest destiny. Readings are meant to awaken within you the brightest expression of yourself, align you with the future version of yourself who is thriving, help you heal old wounds or become aware of the things that are holding you back. They're always meant to be of service. I know that that might sound like a little bit, oh, really? Because we see so many misconceptions of tarot as just being like a fortune-telling device. But it is a very powerful tool to align you with your brightest destiny, to be of service. The other gift with the heavy-hitting cards, besides just being guidance and having your back, is that all of us as humans, like we all have pain. We have all suffered something somewhere. One thing I really learned from being a reader is you never know what someone has gone through. Like you cannot know by just looking at someone or a brief conversation with someone what they're really going through or the things they have seen. So I always suggest compassion as much as possible when dealing with people. You don't know what they've gone through. And so we've all gone through things. We've all gone through pain. We've all experienced shame or betrayal or hurt. We all have things lurking around that make us feel like maybe we're not worth it or we're scared to move forward or whatever. We all have those things because we're human. One of the things that really we want when we're healing is just to be seen and not judged, right? Like how often do we just want to be heard, but we don't want to be judged? We might not even want any energies of fixing. We just want to be seen. We just want to be heard. We don't want to be judged. That is a mighty gift of tarot. I don't know about you, but anytime, how often have you been like, there's this thing in my life and it's upsetting me? And maybe it's someone's misguided attempt to make you feel better, but they try to be like, oh, wow, I'm sorry to hear that, but think about this person, how bad they have it. Or think about this thing, how bad they have it. And while I can see that as sometimes a useful tool for ourselves to put things in perspective, like if you're sad about something, but being like, hold on, I'm very fortunate in these other ways. I can still honor my pain, perhaps without letting it consume my life. So I do understand that as a helpful tool of perspective, just to bring it back to like, okay, I've got tools, I've got things that are working for me that can support me in my healing, but to completely discredit the pain is what no one wants. It's not helpful. And it's hard. It's actually hard to find people who can just like hold space for you. And tarot holds space for you. So, the challenging cards, they have your back not only with guidance, but like your higher self is not judging you. Judgment is human. Judgment is ego. Right? Tarot is not judging you. Like your higher self is totally here for you, no matter what mistakes you make. So that means a tarot reading, and ideally a very good tarot reader, is able to hold space, non-judgment. So the pain that needs to be seen, represented by these sticky cards, can be seen, can be heard, but not be judged. So that's a mighty gift. So we can think about now these sticky cards as guidance and opportunities to be seen for the areas we don't feel good enough, or where we've suffered, or fears, or addictions. There's so many ways that tarot can help and does help. I'm just like, I love tarot. I don't know if you can tell. So I'm just going to go through a couple of the sticky cards and show you how they might be holding space for you and also guidance. So I'm going to start with the Three of Swords. So, like this is one of those images where you're like, ugh. If it showed up, especially at the beginning of your journey, you'd be like, that's not good. Right? This is fair. Here's the thing with the Three of Swords. So we see the Three of Swords, we see, okay, three swords are stabbing a heart. So this card can indicate betrayal and sadness. We see it's raining in the background and it's gray. There's other cards that suggest things are way stormier and look way more gloomy or scarier than the Three of Swords, like the Tower, the Nine of Swords. So here we have a gray day. Well, a gray day doesn't suggest like a dark night of the soul. The astrology of this card is Saturn in Libra. So Saturn is about structure, time, and lessons. We have to learn our lessons. We have to eat our vegetables with Saturn when Saturn appears. And Libra, we know, is about relationships and harmony and diplomacy. Libra likes it fair. And Saturn is a little bit, I think of like the Princess Bride, like the grandpa, who's like, who says life is fair? Where is that written? That to me is like kind of the energy of like Saturn and Libra here. So in this case, we're experiencing some kind of sorrow, jealousy, betrayal, or heartache. Now, Saturn comes in as a lesson. Sometimes our own inner betrayals manifest in the betrayals we experience in life. Here is a gift of tarot. You are being seen, you are not being judged, which means you are not being blamed. A lot of resistance, I find, to doing some of the very effective but more challenging healing and self-discovery work is our impulse to blame ourselves. Once we blame ourselves, it feels very bad. And there's so many things like you can't blame yourself for. Like it's not actually helpful. I know that blame is such a common thing in our society, but like you're now doing an esoteric spiritual act. You are no longer bound by the restrictions of the beliefs of society. So open up to other things. So the Three of Swords, don't blame yourself for, there's lots of ways that we could betray ourselves. Like, why did we date that person who treated us like garbage? And then they ended it and then we begged them back. That's not to be like, well, it's your fault, you suffered. This is useless. But it could be like, I would like to understand why I did that. Not to blame, to understand. So tarot's helping you understand. So in this case, if you were to sit back, you could be like, yeah, I was so conditioned. And I find this is really common when I read for women who date men. We're so conditioned, we have to be liked. If we're not liked, if we're not chosen, if we're not pretty, if we're not pleasing, it's not just a person rejected us. Sometimes it's like, I no longer have as much worth as I thought. I am now without worth. So I've seen so many wonderful women go after men who are like, like they're not bringing that much to the table. There's wonderful men out there, by the way, and there's totally, the roles can be reversed. This is just my experience as a tarot reader. But I think it's not really, and then you go back to, whatever, the wanker, and things go south again. And, you might have friends that are like, why'd you do that? That's so dumb. But the tarot's like, but let's see why? Why were you attracted to that person? And it's not to blame, it's to understand. And you could sit and just be like, I was raised, I had to be so likable, I'd be so pleasing. And the thought of anyone rejecting me, even someone who's like, okay at best, I can't. It's like, I need them to choose me and like me. And then that is like, babe, you're betraying yourself. By thinking that everyone has to like you to have any self-worth, that is a thought that is betraying you. That's just one example of the Three of Swords. So it could be that you were raised not to have enough belief in yourself, or maybe you dated someone and things went so bad and you're punishing yourself ever since. There could be so many reasons. So in the Three of Swords, it can be honoring that you were betrayed by someone else, but the deeper lesson, the tougher lesson, but the more powerful and liberating lesson would be to understand why it happened, take the lesson, and then be stronger and have skills for the relationships that come in the future. So not to blame yourself. Do we really see that distinction? Understanding, not blaming. Very different energies. Okay, this we could go on forever, but I just also want to show how some cards work together to provide warnings. So the Four of Pentacles in the tarot deck, this is sometimes thought of like the Scrooge McDuck tarot deck. There's this great saying I remember. And it's like, that person is wound so tight. If you shoved coal up their butt, they'd poop out diamonds. Yep. So someone's wound tight. We can see the way that they're holding the pentacles like this. This is consuming them. This isn't just like focused on stability. This is consumption. So the Four of Pentacles has a line. And the Four of Pentacles, maybe for some reason, whatever, like business went south or money's tight or expenses came up, we really need to focus on stability. Fair. There are times when we got to do that. We got to budget carefully, whatever. The Four of Pentacles, though, is like careful, because this card isn't often actually all about just wise budgeting and creating a solid, material or financial foundation. This card can be when you're obsessed. You've made some money, could be a little or a lot, and you're just like, it's mine. You like Gollum it, right? You Scrooge McDuck it. Now, if we live like that, if we're like, and look at in the background, this person is isolating themselves. But so there are times we need solitude, but this really speaks more to isolation. Who are we pushing away? What are we pushing away? Because we are obsessed with control. We need to control this so that we feel safe. And the only way to feel safe is if we have this. And the only way we have this, you know what I mean? That kind of just like, we're round real tight. The Four of Pentacles warns us, if we stay in this like fearful, greedy guts or whatever obsessive place, that's what leads to the Five of Pentacles. Because here we see we've got Tiny Tim, the little match girl. They're Dickensian street urchin finest. They're chic. Yeah. Like things look rough, right? We got crutches. They got bells. I think they're lepers. There's like a church behind them. It's snowing. They're in rags. Once again, this is an image that you'd be like, oh, you wouldn't look at that and be like, yay. This would be an image that could possibly evoke some fear. The Four of Pentacles is where we're too obsessed with the material realm. We're too obsessed with money. We're too obsessed with status. We're too obsessed with how we look. We're too obsessed with controlling everything. We have very little spirit. This leads to the Five of Pentacles, which is in fact spiritual poverty. They are not looking to the church. The church is behind them. But the church, spirit, not just religion, spirit is always there for you. Always, always, always. You just have to turn and see it. So this too is a warning. See how tarot has your back? You can focus on stability, but also like chill. I always say like closed fists. What can they receive? If you are holding so tight, what are you giving? What are you receiving? Not much when you're like this. So the Four of Pentacles, we can focus on stability, but open a wee bit, yeah? And that can help us avoid that Five of Pence. Now, if you find yourself in the Five of Pence, don't stress. I've seen the Five of Pence show up for so many people. Do you know, I see this card show up for more people with money than for people who are struggling with money. And I think it's because this card is spiritual poverty. It's that sense that it's never enough. Or we're accumulating all of this wealth or all of this money because deep down we feel like we're not good enough. And that is a hole that cannot be plugged by any money or any things. And don't get me wrong, I know that having enough money, not having it is a mighty stress. Money is like freedom and power. There's so much. I get it. But the Five of Pentacles is suggesting that the deep root of the lack is, in fact, a deep sense of a lack of self-worth, overemphasis on your worth being tied to the material realm, and that spiritual poverty. So, but this has your back again, right? Like the Four of Pence tried to warn you. If we misinterpreted the message, it didn't work, you find yourself in the Five of Pence. We know that we have to focus on something more than just the material. We have to focus on enjoying life, sharing, not just hoarding. We have to believe that we are worthy of the abundance that we are dreaming of. So this has your back because it's showing you where some self-worth leaks are occurring, where you are maybe wasting your life by focusing so much on dollars and not enough on experiences. This could help you align to a sense of fulfillment and a greater purpose. This card really makes me think of the expression, money makes a great servant, but a terrible master. So here we can learn how money is a tool and not necessarily the goal. So we can see how those cards are actually, they got our back. So I could go on and on, but you get the idea, right? Do we see how there are these challenging cards that are in fact holding space? So in the Five of Pentacles, they're like, babe, we see you. Like, we see that you doubt yourself or that you don't think you're worthy. We're not judging you. We're not like, why not? You should. The Five of Pentacles is like, babe, I see you. And now, but like, now we know what you gotta do, right? And like, you could have pulled another card that was telling you what to do, but you now know the issue. You've been seen, not judged by tarot. And now, oh, even just being seen is such medicine. And now you have the guidance to move in the direction of your brightest self, your highest self. And just, some of the fun cards are the cards that you're like, oh yeah, are actually a little challenging sometimes. Ahem. Let's take the Sun. Normally thought of as like, oh, hell yes. Like, you're just like, the sun is out. I have vitality. I'm shining. Look at me. Look at this little naked baby. Whee! I'm authentic. I'm free. No pants for me. But there's sunflowers. There's confidence. There's vitality. There's energy. Oh my God. There's abundance. The Sun truly is a very gorgeous, juicy card. However, tarot, we must remove the words good or bad from the cards to truly get the messages that are trying to come through for us. I've seen the Sun show up when before all of this joy and celebration and truth, there's clarity. Sometimes the clarity is showing us things that kind of burn, right? The Sun is hot. I have seen this show up where you're like, oh, it was just providing clarity. I remember pulling this one time, and then I was like, oh, I'm gonna have such a good day. And then I got into an argument with someone, and it was like spicy. But at the end of the argument, we were both seen, we could understand each other more, and we did, by the end of the day, feel happy and joyful, but we had to go through that first. So the Sun could be letting you know some of the things that are burning and the clarity that, again, will lead to the joy. I'd say that's not super common, but I have seen it more than once with the Sun. The High Priestess, usually we're like, yes, it is I. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so powerful. I am the witchiest of witches, psychic abilities, ooh, all that esoteric knowledge and power. Totally. However, the High Priestess, we see how the scroll is rolled up in their lap and there's a veil. The ocean's behind them. The High Priestess is like, sometimes the High Priestess will be like, you don't get to know that answer right now. And in tarot, you're like, I want to know. It's why I pulled the cards. But the High Priestess will be like, no. It's behind the veil. You have to trust yourself. You have to do more work to open the scroll if you want to find that answer. Sorry. And that's not to say that you aren't experiencing the magic of the High Priestess. You probably need to tap into the energy of the High Priestess in order to open the scroll. But there are times when tarot's like, you don't get to know. And that's a part of it. A lot of life is a mystery. And last but not least, the Fool, often being like, hooray, this person's dressing like themselves. They got their little dog, their little spirit companion. The sun is shining on them. They're about to take a leap of faith and they're open. They're not scared. But when we feel this card, we might actually be super scared. So the Fool will be like, you just have to trust. And things might be falling apart. And you might be like, how? I need to know. I got to pay those bills, or I got to know what's going to happen with this person. I got to make these plans. And the Fool's like, nope. You just have to trust. That's why it's a leap of faith. So that could be really uncomfortable. But again, that's how you develop the skills and the strengths that the Fool wants you to have. You're going to have more trust in life, more trust in yourself, and more confidence. You're not going to feel like you have to micromanage everything so much if you can trust the Fool, take those leaps of faith. Okay, my friends, so I hope this was helpful. So tarot is holding space for you. Tarot, the sticky cards are actually guidance to your brightest path. They're not judging you, and a good reader will not judge you either. Doesn't mean that they're always going to be like, oh, I agree with everything you're doing and saying. That's not really a reader's job. They're holding space, translating messages. You need to go forth and do the guidance, but it's still non-judgment, right? The cards are guiding you, not judging you, and all of this is getting you to the path of your brightest destiny. Okay, my friends, thank you so much for being here. I hope this is helpful. You rule. Have the best tarot readings. Take care.